we have our next segment up and ready. We thought this time we would do an interesting take on personal stories of people and bring them to come and talk to you all about their own personal journeys. And I have somebody very interesting with us today. Haider Jasdhan is a senior HR professional managing employee engagement and communications at Adobe alongside leading the D&I network for India. He comes with 12 plus years of experience across various areas of communications. Beyond all of this that he does at work and juggles, he's also a published Urdu poet, a TEDx strong advocate of mental health and allyship. When not at his work desk, he can be seen traveling or doing rounds of poetry recitals. Haider, the stage is all set for you. We'll bring up, you can start sharing your screen, and then anytime you need me to, sort of call out from the responses that you're getting on the chat window, just holler, I'm just here. So I'm just going to go on mute and hand over the baton to you. The stage and screen is all yours. Take it away.
Thanks, Shreya. Could you just enable the sharing option for me, please?
Sanjeet, if you can just enable share for Haider.
Haider, yes, I mean, you would like to share a PPT or a PDF?
PPT.
Yeah, I mean, if you can just go to your WebEx screen right on top, you should say File, Edit, Share. Do you see that option if you have logged in using the WebEx software?
Right.
Yeah, so just click on Share.
It's disabled for me. I'm not able to.
Okay, let me just try this. 1 minute.
Yeah.
Can you try now? There.
Yeah. Are you able to see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes.
All right. Okay. खुशियों का गुच्छा है बंधा आंचल से तो क्या, मुस्कुराने का वक्त कहां से लाऊं, जिंदा रहने की कश्मकश है जुनून बशर तो क्या, सांसें लेने का वक्त कहां से लाऊं. I penned this Urdu poem recently that talks about emotions. Emotions and feelings that are precious to us, and we want to hold them tight and never let them go. I'm here today to share my story of how poetry came into my life and became a very integral part about my life. But before I get to that, let me invite you to grab a piece of paper and a pen, or even your mobile notepad, and write down that one word that describes you the best. And once you're done with writing that word, just put a +1 or done on the chat pod. And Shreya, if you could tell me if you're seeing number of +1s, then we are good to go with the story.
Sure. I'm watching the chat window, so requesting all of our participants, if you've written down that one word, just type into the chat window and tell us if you have plus.
Whatever words that describes you the best, just go ahead and write that one word and put it as done or +1 on the chat pod.
We have a few dones coming.
All right, great. So as we go along, and if you've written that word, great. And I would now request you to keep that paper away or hide that mobile notepad and don't look at it until I finish my talk. Thank you for that. So let me now time travel and take you with me some 20 years back. Imagine a teenage boy who's lived his life peacefully, being an ideal son, a friend, and a student. This boy would say yes to almost everything and never express his disagreements or ill feelings or things that he desired for but were not given to him. Imagine this child being the obedient, good boy that every parent would like to see them around them. While I was the favorite child for all the good reasons, somewhere this inability to speak up and express resulted into a volcano of emotions inside me. To explain this better, imagine a free-flowing tap water, yeah, that's flowing smoothly, and now you direct that water into a balloon. First, it would flow smoothly, easily into the balloon, and slowly the balloon starts getting heavy and heavier. Every single space of that balloon now starts getting to filled with that water till it reaches a point where no more water can be accommodated in that balloon. And finally, the balloon bursts. The water is now spilled all over, almost feeling worthless. Let me draw that parallel of the balloon and the water with what happened in my life. Suddenly, my world changed. The silence had now turned into aggression and agitation. Aggression so strong enough that I would harm my own loved ones and to an extent, attempt suicide thrice unsuccessfully. So many emotions, right? Yet I felt numb. Imagine being tied on your own bed and having your loved ones being careful of you, that you would harm them or you would harm yourself. Or imagine people who are really fond of you are now keeping a distance from you because they don't want to trigger any emotions or, uh, you know, uh, say anything which might trigger any actions which might be very violent. I was under this psychiatry treatment for months for a condition termed as schizophrenia, the condition where my mental framework was deteriorating day by day. I felt like I was in this black hole and didn't know where to find the light from. I was alive, yet lifeless. When I looked around, I didn't see any role model. I didn't see any hopeful stories that would give me that hope that, hey, you know what, things will be all right. अगर उम्मीद की चादर पे सिलवटें हैं तो उन्हें रहने दो. अगर उम्मीद की चादर पे सिलवटें हैं तो उन्हें रहने दो. कब तक क्यों दिखावे की सजावट करूं मैं जिंदगी. Until one day during my psychotherapy session, my therapist had a candid chat with me and she told me, Heather, to come back to your normal life while everyone around you will keep doing what they're doing and your mother will be beside you as your pillar of strength, the only other person who can really help you is you yourself. She advised me to start writing down whatever I felt. Just scribble it down. Ladies and gentlemen, that is where I consider the magic happened. कुछ इस तरह मैंने जिंदगी से फैसला कर दिया. कुछ इस तरह मैंने जिंदगी से फैसला कर दिया. कुछ हालात उसने बदल दिया. थोड़ा मैं बदल गया. From that day in the hospital ward to months later, I just kept writing whatever I felt. Initially, the words didn't mean a thing. There was no rhyme, rhythm, there was no structure. But slowly, the word started to have its own meaning. There was some structure and some rhythm to it. I don't know what was going on, but I knew one thing for sure, that every time my pen met the paper, I felt that there was an outlet for emotions being created. I felt somewhere I was liberated. Mind you, I was not writing poem. In my mind, I was just expressing myself. I found joy in words, and in turn, words started to define me. Slowly, I started to gather the courage to express whatever I feel, however I'm experiencing my life, the stories that I see around, the words that I hear, the emotions that I feel, everything started to become an inspiration for me to start writing the poems. Soon I realized that my world of poems was not just about me. Many others could see their part of their journeys through my poetry and words. Something had started to change. Change within me, change around me. I somewhere can safely say that poetry had become that catalyst that had made me transition from that silent child who went through chaos and then finally found that calm and composed rhythm in the way I could express myself. But what do you do with this courage that you finally gathered? You start to express even more. And therefore, I never missed an opportunity to share how I feel, what I think about something. what this means for me, what this means for you and the others. I never missed an opportunity to put forward my voice forward and speak up and show up for what I believe in and who I am. This courage was put to test 3 years ago when I finally came out to my mother as a proud gay man. I rattled off every aspect about my life in a 10-minute monologue and then took a few breaths to hear her response. She looked at me and she said, "Haider, I've always been a proud mother. I am, and I will be." The joy in that moment was boundaryless. That acceptance meant the world for me. Acceptance. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's been my journey of accepting myself and finally gathering the courage to not just empower everyone else's voice, but more importantly, to empower my own voice. So let me share a few learnings from this journey, which might help you in your own journey and help you empower your voice, which will finally help in empowering other voices. First, cut off the noise. One of the important learning from my journey was not to get too overwhelmed with too many noises around you and listen to your own one voice. The more you listen to yourself, the more you are able to create impact for self and others. But the choice of choosing between noise and voice is not going to be easy, but it is worth trying. The second learning, express, not impress. When I was preparing myself for this talk, I asked myself, am I going to go here and express my story or go and impress the audience? Time and again, we fall into this trap of trying to put our best foot forward and impress somebody. But let me remind you that every time you do that, ask yourself that are you really expressing authentically? And if the answer is yes, then nothing else should matter. No matter what your form of expression could be. For me, it was poem. But for you, it could be singing, dancing, music, painting, or simply art of having a conversation. Third one, create an ecosystem. So you see in my journey from being a silent kid to finally be able to speak up and show up, the journey wasn't easy, but I had strong enablers in my journey that made that happen. I consider my psychotherapist and my mother as the strong enablers who created that ecosystem for me to be able to express myself. For you, it could be someone else. Or you yourself could be a strong ecosystem for someone who's looking for that little positive nudge or that hope to make things happen. Who wants to believe that things will be all right? Who wants to hear that make an attempt, scribble it down. It's okay if it doesn't make sense. Let me draw back your attention to that one word that you've written on that piece of paper or that notepad. Look at it and ask yourself, are you proud the way you've described yourself? Are you feeling shy or embarrassed with the way you've described yourself? Are you excited to go all out and express that word to the loved ones around you, your peers, your family members, your colleagues, or world out there? The choice is yours. The choice is yours whether you want to hold that expression tight and hide it under the, wherever you want to hide it, or go all out and express yourself. The choice is always yours. But let me tell you, the joy one gets in accepting your reality and celebrating your identity is boundaryless. That's something that makes the difference. Let me leave you with the last couplet and then we'll open up for some questions. अगर किसी इंसान को समझना है तो उसे बोलने दो. अगर किसी इंसान को समझना है तो उसे बोलने दो, राज खोलने दो, मन टटोलने दो. सारे गिले शिकवे वहीं मिट जाएंगे. मन के फूल थोड़े और खिल जाएंगे. Thank you.
when you read and when you interact with people who are so real, so authentic, so powerful, knowing that comes from most intense kind of struggle that there is. So thank you so much for taking us through your personal journey and giving us a look into the brilliance and the magnanimity and everything that is you. Congratulations on the beautiful work that you do and the beautiful pieces you write. I hope I'm doing justice to thanking you, but I think what you've brought to the fore, and I have a question for you actually, is something that's very important and relevant. How do we identify these triggers that are happening or the struggle that's going on in people around us? Because a lot of times, unless somebody comes to the fore and says this is going on with me, we don't know. And how can we make an impact to somebody who perhaps needs the help if we don't know that they need it?
That's a very interesting question, Shreya, and I will only share from the experiences that I've had, and I believe that there could be multiple ways these signs could show up. Well, for me, it was really being from silent to showing aggression and agitation and breaking things and harming myself. But for someone, it could be having sleepless nights. It could be feeling not present. It could be having that ill feeling every time they wake up in the morning and not feeling to work or do anything. There could be multiple signs that could come up. One of the important point to note is, as much as we would want to go and help, what happens is we start almost getting into remedy mode. We say, hey, don't feel like that. uh, Life is beautiful. You don't need to think like that. Go all out, smile a little more. And I think that's the biggest mistake that we do, that we don't acknowledge that there could be these triggers which the person is struggling with. And therefore, I would suggest the first most important thing is to just listen. I think it's very important to just listen to the other person than getting into the action mode that, hey, I'm here, your survivor, and I'm going to help you and I'm going to get things all right. So bank on me. And I think that's one thing which I would really call out, that go and listen to what the other person wants to say. There could be signs that you would be able to catch, and then get into that conversation, which is a safe space enough for that person to open up to you. I think that's very important, to initiate the conversation around mental health and getting help for themselves, than getting into this action and remedy mode.
Yes, thank you so much, because I think a lot of people realize we could be doing more harm than good if we're going into the mode you just spoke about. A lot of comments are coming in. Brilliant, impactful, and beautiful session. Thanks for sharing your story with us. There's a request for more poetry, please. So if you could share maybe a few more lines of something that you've recently written or something to inspire all of us, we would love to hear it.
All right, so let me share this couplet, which is a favorite one. And I'm sorry I don't have the translation slide ready with me, but I'm hoping that people will be able to understand what I'm trying to say through this poem. खुल के मिलो तो सजा देते हैं लोग, खुल के मिलो तो सजा देते हैं लोग, सच्चे जज्बात भी ठुकरा देते हैं लोग। खुल के मिलो तो सजा देते हैं लोग, सच्चे जज्बात भी ठुकरा देते हैं लोग। क्या देखेंगे दुनिया वाले दो इंसानों का मिलना, क्या देखेंगे दुनिया वाले दो इंसानों का मिलना, बैठे हुए दो परिंदों को भी उड़ा देते हैं लोग।
I hope a lot of our viewers understand Urdu and understand the poignance of that couplet that you just shared with us. But I think there is so much of merit to empathy and kindness and compassion. And when it comes to humans, I think more than ever, that's what we need to bring to the fore. I got the answer to one of my questions from your poetry, says Milind. Lovely, beautiful, says Lavanya. So I think that is just sort of caught, in the moment of the beauty of this powerful message that you're trying to send. Thank you so much, like I said, for your authenticity and for your courage to share your story with the world. I think with every story comes, more ability to handle. So I think If we have any more questions, I'd request the audience to continue posting them in either the chat window or the Q&A button. But Haider, I want to ask you about poetry itself. I mean, when you say these things, it looks to me anybody who's willing to sort of experiment with writing. Do you have something to say as to how to use writing as therapy?
So, like I shared, when I started writing, I didn't start writing with the objective in mind that, hey, I want to be a poet one day, right? I didn't started writing with thinking that one day I will have some of my poems published, one day I'm going to speak in some mushaira. No, nothing of that sort. In fact, none of my family members have any background in art or literature or poetry. I don't have Urdu as my first language. I speak Gujarati at home, which is our mother tongue. So there are many pieces which one would say, hey, you know what, you might have had this and therefore you were able to at least get to that. But I think in many ways, I think I really, while people might look at a depression story and say, "Oh, so sad that happened with you," when I look back with thinking, hey, that was some sort of a benefit in my life, right? I mean, I would have never discovered this part of me if that wouldn't have happened. If that wouldn't have, I'm sure there is struggle and that was painful. But when I look back and I think, was those struggles worthwhile? Yes, they were probably because. When I started writing, I just started writing what I feel, and therefore my answer to your question would be uh, uh, find out that interest which really helps in connecting yourself, right? I think the important part is not the art form, the what that art form does to you. So whether you're painting, what really resonates with you in that art form, what do you feel connected with, are you able to identify a lot more of yourself through your work in the form of poetry or music or painting. So I think that's very important to really look at. And then I think all the other pieces, whether as I went along, I subscribed to Urdu dictionaries, I started watching a lot more mushairas, following a lot more poets, and all of that kind of worked along. But I think the very crux of it is really to see whether my art form helps me in connecting with myself and helps me identify and understand myself a lot more better. If your answer gets yes from there, then I think that's the journey that one should really go with.
Yes, thank you so much, Haider, for answering that. I think there's one last which says more, please, and I think way to end this part of the program. So if there is another couplet that you can share with us.
That's an interesting talk, right? When I think of it, I think it's a good blend of I'm giving people some sort of a mushaira as well as giving them a little bit of spice from my life and the learnings from it. So I like this. All right, so let's end with this couplet, which is शोर हर कहीं है कि तजुर्बों के खरीदार आ गए. शोर हर कहीं है कि तजुर्बों के खरीदार आ गए. हम अपने सारे ख्वाब उठाए, सरे बाजार आ गए.
Wow. Okay. Again, can you? I don't think the translation will do justice. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sanjeev. I think I'm gonna. Heather, once again, I think on behalf of everybody who's part of the Dive-In team, I'm getting in messages and comments and, of how beautiful this session was and how powerful it is in so many forms and ways. Thank you so much for coming here, sharing your journey with us, telling us about all of these beautiful aspects of your life, which I think has brought you to who you are today. And I think every year we would love to hear from you and hear these couplets and these nuances of human nature and all of it that it entails. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and an honor to have had you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Pleasure being part of this.